So, welcome to today's deep dive. We're looking at March 1st, 2026, when a ballistic missile carrying 500 kilograms of TNT just slams into Bet Shemesh in Israel.
Yeah, and the visual evidence we have from Dr. Nimrod Israeli's column on this is, I mean, it's just staggering.
It really
You're
is.
looking at this massive crater right where a synagogue and a shelter stood just moments before,
Right.
and the shockwave alone shattered windows up to like 700 meters away.
Right. And before we get too deep into this, we should probably add a quick disclaimer. Obviously, this is a deeply sensitive political conflict, but for this deep dive, we're just impartially exploring the sociological concepts, without endorsing any political viewpoints or sides.
Exactly, yeah. We're strictly looking at the human systems here, because what happened creates this incredibly rare natural experiment.
Yeah, it's kind of like imagine dropping a massive boulder into a perfectly still pond, right?
Hmm.
The water takes the exact same physical force in all directions. But in this real-life scenario, that exact same 500-kilogram shockwave struck right between two completely different mediums. You have a dense urban neighborhood on one side and a tiny 22-member kibbutz named Tammuz on the other.
And that raises the core question of this whole deep dive. Why did the exact same explosive force result in two completely different recovery timelines within literally 24 hours?
Right, because on the urban side of the crater, you basically had hundreds of isolated households dealing with the devastation entirely on their own.
Yeah, families were frantically duplicating efforts. So, calling contractors, trying to figure out how to seal windows, just navigating the local bureaucracy completely from scratch.
And a lot of those urban families actually chose to evacuate to hotels, which, on the surface, fleeing to a safe, intact building makes total sense.
Well, you'd think so, but psychologically, it actually stalls recovery.
Oh, wait, really?
Yeah, because when you leave the site of the trauma, you kind of enter this state of passive waiting. You're physically severed from the agency of rebuilding your own life, and that actually prolongs the psychological shock.
Wow, okay. But meanwhile, just across the impact zone at kibbutz Tammuz, the response was, radically different. Within 20 minutes of the blast, the entire 22-member community gathered on their central lawn.
Yeah, they didn't scatter. They didn't just wait for rescue. They actually appointed 3 coordinators right on the spot.
And that immediate organization translates into this super steep learning curve. Because by Monday, the kibbutz just had a single representative walking the grounds with property tax officials and structural engineers.
Which is so efficient. I mean, that rep learned exactly what the engineer needed at the very first damaged house and then just applied it to the next 21.
While the urban families were individually stumbling through that exact same bureaucratic maze without any shared intel.
Exactly. And the photos from the kibbutz really capture this active coping mechanism. There's this one shot of a resident named Avner and his daughter, and they're just systematically sweeping shattered glass from their living room.
Yeah, and another photo shows this massive communal food table they set up outside. So they cooked together, they ate together.
And because they, pooled their labor to seal broken windows with nylon, they actually got to sleep in their own beds that exact same night.
Which is incredible. But looking at these two totally different outcomes, I have to ask, did kibbutz Tammuz just have a massive emergency fund or private security that the urban neighborhood didn't have?
It's super tempting to chalk it up to money or specialized training, but the sources point to something much more foundational. The urban residents were just as brave, right? Just as dedicated to protecting their families.
So what was the difference then?
The dividing line was their structural capacity for cooperation. A kibbutz operates on this pre-existing, invisible framework of shared responsibility.
Oh, I see. So because they already govern themselves collectively on, a random Tuesday, they can instantly activate that muscle to distribute labor on a Sunday after a missile strike.
Exactly. They didn't have to invent a community structure in the middle of a panic. They just leaned on the one they already had.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Taking action alongside your neighbors transforms you from a helpless victim of a blast into an active participant in your own survival, which poses a pretty crucial question for you listening right now.
Right. If a sudden shock hits your neighborhood or your workplace tomorrow, do you have a system in place to combine efforts? Or are you going to be stuck surviving in isolation?
Just duplicating the panic of the person living right next door.
Exactly. We rarely get to choose when or where the boulder drops. But if pre-existing physical community structures are the actual secret to surviving a disaster, you really have to wonder, is our increasingly isolated digital-first lifestyle quietly dismantling our collective resilience before the next crisis even hits?